Okay, today is February 23rd, and we're going to be talking about a few things. So the first half of our call is going to be with a special guest, Marjie, and she's going to, we have some fun things that we're going to be talking about. And then the last half of this call, we're going to say goodbye to our clients, and everybody's going to jump off, and we're going to hang out with just the assistants for a few minutes to do some of our assistant training and some of the additional things that we have for them. So Marjie, without further ado, we're so excited to have you here. Marjie, she actually is, are you and Castle on the same team? Is that how you two know each other? Yeah, you
Yes,
are.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Marjie has a really great retention rate and is so great with her getting her customers onto her Zoom calls. A lot of customers, and this is something that a lot of my clients ask about, is how do I get people to join my Zoom calls? I'm now moving online. How do I get people to stay? How can I continue to nurture them so they feel part of a community? And so those are some of the things that we're going to be talking a little bit about today. So Marjie is a gold in doTERRA, and remind me where you live. You live in Arizona, is that right?
I'm originally from Arizona, but I live in Utah, up in Upalco. It's over there by Roosevelt.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's awesome. And you were with another essential oil company for 17 years, and you were introduced to doTERRA about 5 years ago, right?
Correct.
That's awesome. Well, I would love for you to say hi to everybody and tell us maybe a fun fact about yourself. And I'd love to dive in and hear a little bit more about your classes and how you make them such a success.
Well, thank you, Megan, for allowing me to take this opportunity, because yeah, when I got that email, I'm like, what the heck? I don't know anything. But first of all, I always acknowledge Heavenly Father in everything I do, because without him, I can't do it. And that to me is one of my key points, is I lean on him for everything. But I am been married for almost 23 years. I have an awesome husband who supports me in this whole endeavor, very supportive of all my craziness. And we have 6 beautiful children, 3 boys and 3 girls. And like Megan said, then we were with another company for 17 years, back when my firstborn was 3 months old. And so that was my beginning journey of essential oils. But that's not where my natural remedy started. Before that, then I was introduced to herbs and medicinal, all that kind of stuff. So getting into essential oils was kind of scary for me. But as I journeyed along, realized the benefits of it, and then when I was introduced to doTERRA, I actually said no. I have a company. I trust their oils, well, sort of. And I'm good. I have the ones I like, and my coworkers just kept working on me. And finally, lavender is actually what sold me to doTERRA. Because the other company, I didn't matter when I used lavender, like for burns and stuff, it burned. And I just like, anyway, so lavender is actually what sold me. And I said, where do I sign? I didn't start building my company, the business part of it, until a year later. And I was nervous, and I'm like, I'll just get my wills paid for. That's as far as I want to go. But as I went on with my classes and my journey and got introduced to it more, I realized, you know what? There are more people out there in that big wide world that need to know what I know and what I can help them with. So that's a little bit about myself.
I love your journey. And I feel like a lot of people relate to it, where they started in similar circumstances. Either they were part of another oil company, or they were, they said no to building, and now here they are. And so we have on this call a lot of essential oil leaders and their assistants. And so I would love to hear, how you achieve such a high class attendance rate on Zoom. Maybe should we start there? Would that be the best place to begin?
Sounds good. So 2 years ago in December, I actually decided, you know what, if I'm going to reach people, because I don't do social media, and the only communicating I do is through email or phone calls. I don't even text. So I'm just like, if I'm going to reach anybody, I've got to start Zoom calls. So December 2 years ago, I'm like, started my first Zoom call, and it was embarrassing. I had myself muted 5 minutes into it, 10 minutes into it, and everybody's like, wait a minute, we can't hear you. And so I had to start over. Anyway, so when I started, I decided, you know what, these are going to be simple, half hour max. Very rarely do I go over that half an hour mark. and no slides. I absolutely do no slides. Why? Because I feel like it'll hinder me from being consistent in what I do. And
connecting with people, I feel like too, people want to not look at a screen, but they want to see your face and interact with you.
well, my team, 99% of them do not use the Zoom app. They only call in.
Oh, that's right.
I've offered, there's a Zoom app.
Mhm.
If you want to Zoom in, they all call in, and I feel like I connect with more people when I don't hinder their ability to be able to connect.
I love that. So you make it simple rather than making this a big ordeal and creating all these PowerPoints and trying to come up with a big presentation. You just show up to serve. So how do you get that many people? I hear it's 60 people or so on your Zoom classes. Where do you find them from, and how do you get them to commit to joining your call?
So it's an average of 30 to 60 people a week. But when I started, it was slow. It was very few, 10 people. But as I grew my team and as the education and people realized that, hey, Marge is doing this every single week. They know at 8:30 every week, then there's a class. Regardless if they call in or not, there's going to be one next week. I never differ from that time. In the 2 years I've done this, I've missed one call, but everybody was on and I had no service. I says, I can't get on. And then I said, see you next week. That is the only time I've ever missed this class. And I feel like the education and the consistency of knowing that it's going to be every week. And
so
they
just rely on it.
Right. And I thought about, should I do it once a month? And I'm like, no, people aren't going to connect once a month. Mm-hmm. They're going to forget it. And so I chose to do it once a week. And I just sat down with the team, with my team. I sat down with my family and I'm like, this is the time that's going to work best for us. Can you support me in it? And of course they support me in it.
Mm-hmm. So are your team also bringing people to these calls too? Or are you just bringing people? Where do you find these people to join?
So it's a little of both.
Mm-hmm.
I invite people, I email people. And then I always email out every single week, the time, the place, and I always say, invite your people, invite whoever. So it's not just my team that calls in. Mm-hmm. I want them to know that it's education for everybody.
Cool. I love that. And I love that you're bringing your team into it, because I think this is where a lot of people struggle, is that they try to be a one-man show, one-woman show, and it ends up sort of falling flat because they're now the only ones trying to bring people and create that synergy. But it seems like you're working with your leaders a lot. So it's a collaborative effort where you're all inviting people together. So I really love that. And Adriana just had a good question in the chat, something that I was also thinking. What are your topics each week so that people want to keep coming back? It seems like they continue to come back because they had a good experience on a previous call. So how are they the same topics every week, or what are your topics when you present?
So for a general rule, then I do 2 to 3 oils. I go over in details of what the oils. I go deeper than it's for liver support. It's for, I go deeper and I do a lot of studies, meaning I look into where the studies are coming from. And then, for instance, I jump around for the topics, like I'll go deep dive into the liver or the lymphatic system. And like last week, I deep dived into the children's 7 oils, the blends, and just made sure they knew that you didn't just have to use it for this topic. You could use it for so many different things. I like to teach them, if you get a blend, let's say for instance, the On Guard blend. We know that On Guard is a protective blend, but it's got wild orange in there. It's uplifting. You can use it. Or the Immortelle. I teach about looking into each individual oil. Don't look at it as a blend. Like we got the Together. No, I don't think it was Together. Anyway, one of the convention oils, mm-hmm. or the leadership oils, it stunk to high heaven to me. And I'm like, what am I going to use this for? It stinks so bad. So I deep dived into what each oil was for. And then I used it on the bottom of my feet on that pressure point where I felt like it would benefit. So if they know that education, they're going to not just look at this narrow space. They're
Mhm.
going to look at the full picture.
Do you know what I love about that is that I think a lot of people are yearning to understand the individual oils, because when they get their oils, they're sort of afraid to use them a little bit. And so I love that the way that you're approaching this is not just like, let's do an intro to oils class. I'm sure that you may do those occasionally, but you're doing a deep dive into each specific oil, so they know when they come onto that class, they're going to learn about something different than they did last week. Um, which I think is really powerful. And I love that you keep them to 30 minutes. So it's not a long experience. They're going to come and they're going to get some really juicy value, and then they're going to jump off. One person asked, are you the only teacher, or do you circulate with your leaders to help do the presentation?
Right now, I'm the only teacher. Once in a while, my daughter, she will do them if I can't, but 90% of the time I do them. And I've offered my team, and I'm like, hey, you can teach these. And they're barely starting on their building journey, and they're like, we're not comfortable yet. That's fine. I'll continue to do it because I'm kind of a control freak. If I leave it to somebody else and it doesn't happen, then I feel like it's on my shoulders. And
Sure.
yes, my classes are free. Whoever put that in the chat, they are free. Anybody can, there's no, there's nothing attached to it, because I want people to get the education. And I want to point out, I don't do social media, but I am the biggest book collector you will ever see. I research my oil books, my herb books, and see where different approaches come from. And that's where I get my information.
And I love that you've adapted so well to your audience and understanding how they also receive information. You mentioned that they aren't on social media, they don't even text, like it's just phone calls and emails. And so you've sort of adapted your entire business model to serving them in the way that they like to be heard. And I think this is good for people on this call to hear, because everybody thinks, well, in order for my business to grow, I have to be on Instagram, or I have to be doing these things, which isn't necessarily true. In case in point, you're doing it completely still one-on-one, but also virtual too at the same time, because you're using Zoom. So I think that you've kind of married this beautiful business model and sort of got rid of pretenses that everybody thinks they have to do to grow a successful business.
Yeah, and that's true. And I feel like this is my motto, is be true to yourself, be true to the products, be honest about the product. See, I'm very blunt, and people ask my opinion about something, and I will tell them point blank. It's like the adaptive pills. People have asked me, what about the ingredients in this? And I says, well, I've told doTERRA, maltodextrin does not need to be in any pills. It's just a sugar. It's just a filler to me. And some of my team can't, or people that I know can't have corn, and maltodextrin comes from corn. And so it's like different frustrations. And same with the soy. My sisters can't have soy, and so they won't try the Lifelong Vitality. And I just keep reaching out to doTERRA. I'm like, we got to remove the soy. And they are starting to. And I just feel like being honest about it, and don't just sugarcoat, these are the best products. I'm very blunt about it, because I do my research on what needs to be in there, what really doesn't. And I feel like
that helps create trust with you.
Right. And we did a retreat this weekend with my leaders, and they brought in people that wanted to be potential leaders. And one of them, she's not enrolled yet, but she's like, I listen to your classes every week, Marge. And I have found out that it's so nice that if you don't know a product, you tell us. If you don't like something about a product, you tell us. And I feel like that's why I keep coming back, because you don't sugarcoat. And I'm like, no, I've been hurt by too many people's products, not doTERRA's, that I have to research them.
Ooh, do you know what I love about that is that they know they're going to get honest and real answers from you, and they don't have to go try something and then have a poor experience with it, when somebody could have just said, actually, you know, that wasn't my favorite one, but this one is. And so I love that they know that you're going to be honest with them, which creates a trust with buyers. I feel like people are more willing to buy something when they know that they're getting an unfiltered response, that, you know, well, I like this about it, but I don't like this. And so they go in with an open mind and understanding, and you've created that trust with them, which creates that space for them to be comfortable.
Correct.
I
So I'm
love,
gonna, sorry. So I'm
I
gonna
said,
just,
go ahead.
there are 4 things that I do to use to build my business. And number 1 is faith in Heavenly Father and lean on Him. Number 2, doTERRA's amazing products. If they didn't have these products, you wouldn't be building a business.
Mhm.
Number 3, educate, educate, educate. My classes, education. And number 4 is consistency. The inconsistency is what ruins a lot of things. And I feel like that's why I have such a high call in, why so many people are on, is because they know it's going to be there. But as far as the retention, it's because of the education. It's there and they can connect.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love what you said earlier, that if you don't know an oil, you'll tell them. And I think that a lot of people think they have to know everything there is to know about essential oils and doTERRA to be successful in this business. But I think that that's just not true, because we're all still learning. There's so many oils that I still don't know much about. And I've been a part of doTERRA for 10 years. And so I think being open and honest, like you said, is so good. And then that consistency, showing up and being present for them, because if you show up for them, they'll show up for you. One person asked in the chat, what is your enrollment rate like? And what are your tips on how you close if you just go over one oil?
My enrollment is generally about 1 to 2 a month, and that's for my overall team. My team is about only 100 people, but it's generally about 1 or 2. But now I've got 3 business builders right now that are really putting forth the effort. So I'm eager to see it grow faster, because it's not just on me. Building 90% of my team has been exhausting. But it's how I had to start.
Yeah. Well, especially at the stage of your business where you're at, you're still in that stage where you are bringing on builders and customers still, where some people are younger and older, depending on where they are in this call. And so I think it all comes down to being, like you said, being consistent. You're building these relationships that I think will be fruitful over time as well, where they're showing up and getting consistent value from you. And now it's all about providing a call to action. Like, what is the next step? What is the next thing that you're leading them to? But the fact that they're all you're joining every week, I think that you're building ground for growth.
Right. What was the second question?
She said, what are your tips on how you close if you just go over one oil? Like on your classes, do you have and if you're interested in enrolling or learning more, or do you have it? What do you do any of that on the calls, or is it purely education?
It's just purely education. I don't push a lot of the, salesy part of it. I come from a community that we have been down our throats like Salon Master and Rainbow Vacuum, and that just has turned us clear off. And so my approach when I first started doing classes were actually in person. First class I did, Casa came over here, not one person showed up. Did I give up? No. So the next classes, I actually started going south where my family and friends live, which is about 7 hours away, and started doing in-person classes. And even then, I did not push it. I says, doTERRA has kits, and if you are interested in them, that's fine. If not, continue to come to my classes for the education. And that's why I feel like education is so important. It's like one lady last week, she's like, I've been listening to your classes for about 8 months. I'm ready to enroll. I understand oils now. And so this is why I'm not hung up on the wellness consults. I'm already doing them every week.
Ooh, it's like a group wellness consult where they're learning as a group and creating synergy, and then building that foundation so they are ready to enroll. I really love that. It's neat to hear how everybody adapts to how they build. And I think that that's sort of what I wanted everybody to hear, is that there's no one way to do this, that everybody, I think, you need to find what works for you and your strengths, what serves you in your community, rather than trying to a square peg into a round hole and say, this is what everybody else is doing, so I must need to do that too. And my Amish and Mennonite clients are some of my very favorites because they've removed all of these things that are sort of in the way of actually building a connection with their people. They removed social media, which they feel like is going to automate, their communication and getting in front of the right people. I'm not saying that social media is the wrong way to go, but I do love that you have this relationship with people, like a one-on-one experience that people are getting to know, like, and trust you with the oils versus just, I'm going to post a few things out there and hope it lands and somebody sees it and wants to talk with me.
That's correct.
I
And
love
so, like back to the question of, well, I just had a brainstorm, but somebody this morning actually asked me, no, I had somebody tell me no. And I says, it's not no, N-O, it's know something, K-N-O. They don't know. This is something I learned from Stephanie. It's not no, it's they don't know enough. And that's why I think education is important. Or they say, I can't right now. Or even when you're trying to build your team, I can't do that. Or you kind of put a reserve on it. We actually have a saying in our home. I can't is a lie. I'm too lazy to try. Put forth the effort to do it. Don't, I'm not saying everybody's lazy. That's just a saying that we have. And it seems to help think, okay, I don't have to say I can't. I just need to know more.
Do you know what I love about that is that going in, it removes the emotion from it, instead of thinking like, oh, they said no to me, or that I wasn't a good salesman, or I didn't teach right, or I'm not converting them to, I'm not doing a good job. You remove all of that and instead just saying, so they said no, what is it that they need to KNOW to know more so they feel confident in this next step? And then you show up with a service mindset rather than like an emotionally triggered heart that's like, oh, I failed, I didn't close the sale. Instead it's like, oh, well, okay, so tell me what your concerns are and let's resolve them. And it's more of a, how can I serve this person in front of me kind of a mentality. Love that. Correct. I love that.
And also when I record my classes, they're only the audio. I don't record the, you guys send out a link. I send out an email to just my team and I'm like, pass these on. I don't share them with everybody on my email group. I share it with my team and I'll say, share them. And here you go. So each week they get the recording, because there are people that aren't able to call in, but at least somebody has a recording to go forward.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marjie, for sharing your insight with us. I hope everybody got some good value from her tips. I think it's fun to hear occasionally how other people build their business that's different from, we've had, Instagram experts on here and telling us how they do it all on there. And sometimes that feels really overwhelming to people who are like, I just want to build relationships. I came here just to build a one-on-one connection with people. And so then there's this other spectrum that build it your way. So thank you for sharing value with us and giving us a sneak peek into how you run your business. And hopefully that gives some people some inspiration on what they can do. And Janice says, thank you. If you found value from this, tell us in the chat. We'd love to know if you found some value. Any last minute thoughts, Marjie, before we say goodbye?
No, all I can say is thanks for this opportunity. And I hope what little I can share with others will be able to help you grow. But there is something I want to show, because these are my education. I'm gonna turn my camera around so that you can see if I can drop things. So these are my books. We all know the emotional book. This one, somebody introduced me this year. Can you see that? It's essentially the Oil Magic. They barely came out with a new one.
Cool.
And that one I like because it goes into protocols. It'll actually go into the protocols of what to do and when to do them. This is my favorite book. Essential oils, natural remedies. I go find the bargains at Barnes & Noble. The Lost. And because oils come from herbs, I always get my herb books. This is something Cassie gave me for my birthday last year. Yikes, my camera's being dumb. And it's been fun. Of course, there's Dr. Marisa Snyder's books. So look into those ones. Oil Life has this essential oils made simple. And if you have a beginner, I recommend this book, Modern Essentials. And then we have Essential Life book. This is by Dr. Z. He does a good job of his books. So look into his stuff. This one's been fun because it's got remedies that you can use. And this is how I do my classes. I mean, I teach recipes, I teach remedies. And then this one has been, this one has been my favorite. It's Dr. Axe,
Dr. Axe. Cool.
Ty Bollinger and Jordan Rubin. This has been fun. So
cool.
Just go into your books. I mean, find books. Since I don't know social media, but I feel like books go deeper than a lot of other things.
I love that. And my assistant just said that she's
yeah,
going to go through and grab all the, she's going to watch that little snippet again, and she's going to grab all the names of the books and put them, all the links to everything in our email so that you all can access them as well. So thank you. That's awesome, Margie. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to switch to the second half of our call really quick, where we bring on, we're going to say goodbye to all the clients, and all the assistants can stay on, and we'll go through the assistance part of our call where we have some things to go over and help you with the things you're working on this week. So thank you all for joining us. We'll go ahead and stop the recording. And thank you again, Margie. We are just so grateful that you joined us and shared your wisdom with us today. Awesome. Thanks everybody. And assistants, you can hang on, and we'll jump into the last 30 minutes of our call.